It was about 2 years ago. My girlfriend, Emma, and I were traveling abroad for the first time together. It was kind of a spontaneous trip we both had saved up for months, and this was supposed to be our little escape from work and all the chaos back home. We hadn't booked any fancy hotels, just small motels along the way. The one we stayed in on the second night, that's the one I'll never forget. It was a long drive from the airport, through narrow roads lined with trees that seemed to swallow up the light. By the time we got there, it was past 11 p.m. The motel looked like it hadn't seen a coat of paint in decades. One flickering light outside the reception, the hum of insects, and that strange silence you only hear in isolated places. Inside, the man at the reception barely spoke English. He just stared at us for a few seconds before handing over an old brass key with the number 7 on it. When he smiled, it didn't look right, like it wasn't meant to be comforting. Our room was down a narrow corridor that smelled faintly of mold and cleaning chemicals. The wallpaper was peeling in places, and I remember noticing that every door had deep scratches near the handle, like someone had tried to claw their way in, or out. Emma laughed it off, saying it looked like a scene from one of my horror podcasts. I smiled, but I could feel something off. Inside the room, there was a single lamp with a yellow glow, 2 twin beds instead of a double, and an old Kurt TV that buzzed faintly even when it was off. I remember running my hand along the blanket. It was rough, like sandpaper, and smelled faintly metallic. We were exhausted, so after a quick shower, we just wanted to sleep. The shower water came out brown for a few seconds before turning clear, and Emma joked that we were going to wake up with extra limbs. We laughed, but something about that place felt heavy. Around 2 a.m., I woke up, not because of a sound, but because of the absence of one. It was too quiet. Even the constant hum of insects outside had stopped. I sat up, and that's when I noticed the TV was on. Not showing a channel, just static. Emma was still asleep. I reached for the remote, but it wasn't there. Then I saw something that froze me completely. On the screen, through the fuzz and distortion, I could see what looked like a dimly lit hallway, the same hallway outside our room. I watched as the camera seemed to move slowly toward our door, step by step. The number 7 became visible, hanging crookedly on the door. My breathing got shallow. I tried waking Emma, whispering her name first, then shaking her shoulder. When she finally opened her eyes, I pointed to the screen. But the static was gone. It was just black now. She told me it was probably my imagination, that maybe the TV had some signal interference, and pulled the blanket over herself again. I wanted to believe her, but I couldn't shake off the image of that hallway getting closer. I turned off the TV at the switch, lay down, and faced the wall, trying to calm myself. That's when I heard the first sound, a faint click, then another. Like someone was slowly trying keys in a lock. I looked at the door. The knob was trembling slightly. I froze, listening, barely breathing. The sound stopped. A few seconds later, soft footsteps moved away down the hallway. I didn't sleep much that night. Every small creak of the old wood made me twitch. By morning, Emma was already up and packing. She told me she had a weird dream, that someone was whispering outside the window, repeating her name. When she looked out, there was no one. We decided to check out early. When we went to hand the key to the receptionist, he wasn't there. A woman was instead. She looked confused when I mentioned the man who gave us the key last night. "There's no one else here," she said quietly. "I've been working since noon yesterday." I didn't say anything after that. We got in the car and drove off without looking back. But as we passed the last curve near the woods, I glanced at the motel through the rearview mirror. And I swear, for a split second, I saw someone standing in front of room number 7.
This happened to me and my girlfriend, Claire, last year. We had gone on a short vacation to a foreign country, somewhere neither of us had been before. We were supposed to stay in a nice Airbnb, but there was a mix-up with the booking, and by the time we realized it, it was already past midnight. We ended up finding this small roadside motel, about an hour outside the city. It wasn't anything fancy, just a 2-story building with flickering neon lights, and an empty parking lot. The sign said, "Vacancy," in half-lit red letters. We were both tired from the long drive, so we didn't really care. We just wanted to sleep. I remember walking into the lobby, and the first thing I noticed was the smell. Kind of musty, like old carpet mixed with cigarette smoke. There was no one at the front desk at first, just a small bell sitting there. I rang it once, and after a few seconds, an old man came out from the back room. He looked odd, not threatening, just off. His clothes were clean, but his face was expressionless, and his eyes didn't quite meet mine when I spoke. He gave us the key to room 9, on the second floor. The key was one of those old brass ones with a wooden tag, not a key card like modern motels. We thanked him and went upstairs. The hallway was dimly lit, with buzzing yellow lights and faded wallpaper peeling off in patches. I remember Claire holding onto my arm, whispering, "This place feels weird." I laughed it off, and said, "It's fine, we'll be out by morning." When we got inside, the room wasn't terrible, just old. A double bed, a small wooden dresser, a dusty mirror, and a single window with thick curtains. The air smelled stale, like it hadn't been aired out in months. I locked the door, checked the bathroom, and told Claire to rest while I went to fill our water bottles from the vending machine outside. When I came back, Claire was sitting on the bed, staring at the mirror. She looked pale. I asked what was wrong, and she said, "I thought I saw someone in the mirror behind me, like a shadow." I turned and looked, nothing there, just our reflections. I told her she was probably tired, and we both decided to call it a night. We turned off the lights, and for a while, everything was fine. The hum of the air conditioner, and the distant sound of cars on the highway were the only noises. I started to drift off, but sometime later, maybe around 2 or 3 a.m. I woke up to a soft creaking sound. At first, I thought it was the floorboards or the AC unit, but then I heard it again, slow, rhythmic creaking, like footsteps in the hallway. I sat up slightly, trying not to wake Claire. The sound was faint but steady. Then it stopped, right outside our door. I stared at the door, waiting to hear a knock, but nothing came, just silence. I checked my phone, no signal. That's when I noticed something strange, a faint light, coming from under the door, like someone was standing just outside, holding a flashlight. The light stayed there for a few seconds, then slowly moved away. I got out of bed as quietly as I could and peeked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. I waited a few seconds, then turned back to bed, telling myself it was just another guest. But as soon as I lay down, I heard the creaking again, this time from inside the room above us. The sound of slow, deliberate footsteps, pacing back and forth. I was wide awake now, staring at the ceiling. The steps stopped suddenly, and I could have sworn I heard something faint, like whispering. Claire stirred next to me, and whispered, "You hear that too, right?" We both stayed quiet for a long time, listening. The whispering continued, soft, broken sounds that didn't sound like any language I knew. It was like someone murmuring nonsense right above us. I was debating whether to go to the front desk, but something in my gut told me not to open the door. After a while, the whispering stopped, replaced by faint scratching noises, long, drawn-out scratches, moving across the ceiling and down the walls. My throat went dry. Claire grabbed my arm tightly and whispered, "There's someone outside the window." I turned, and sure enough, behind the curtain, there was a faint outline, a shadow, human-shaped, unmoving. The window was on the second floor, which made no sense. There was no balcony, no ledge. I froze. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. I wanted to pull the curtain back to see, but I couldn't make myself move. We sat there, gripping each other's hands, not saying a word. The shadow didn't move. It just stayed there. After what felt like forever, it slowly faded away, as if it had stepped back into the darkness. We didn't sleep after that. As soon as the sun started coming up, we packed our things and left. When we went downstairs to return the key, the lobby was empty again. No one at the desk. The door to the back room was slightly open, and I could see a dim light flickering inside, but I didn't dare check. We just left the key on the counter and walked out. As we drove away, Claire asked me to look at the windows of the motel rooms as we passed. I did, and for a split second, I thought I saw someone standing behind the curtain of our old room, watching us leave. I don't know what that place was or what we saw, but every time I close my eyes, I still see that faint outline behind the curtain.
I've never been the kind of person who believes in paranormal stuff. My wife, Hannah, though she's into that kind of thing. Ghost stories, urban legends, haunted places. So when we went on this trip last year, she was actually excited when we ended up in this creepy little motel in the middle of nowhere. It wasn't part of the plan. We were driving back from a small coastal town after visiting one of her college friends, and our GPS messed up somewhere along the way. We got caught in heavy rain, it was pitch dark, and we couldn't see a thing on the road. So when we saw a flickering neon sign that just said motel ahead, we decided to stop for the night. The building looked old, like something straight out of the 70s. The rain was pouring so hard that by the time we got out of the car, we were both soaked. The lobby smelled faintly of damp wood and something chemical like bleach that's been sitting for too long. There was a woman at the front desk. She had this stiff smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I remember the way she looked at Hannah first, just stared for a couple seconds before asking, "One night?" Her voice had that accent that's hard to place, slow and deliberate. She gave us an actual metal key, not a card. The tag said room 12. The hallway leading to our room was lined with green carpeting that had stains all over. I noticed that every room number had a small cross above it. Hannah joked that it must be for extra protection. I laughed, but honestly, the place already had me on edge. Inside the room, everything felt off. The air was thick, humid, and even though the light worked, it flickered every few seconds. There was an old painting above the bed, some countryside landscape with a barn and trees. But when I looked closer, the barn door in the painting was slightly open, and inside it looked like there was something, a shadowy figure, maybe, I don't know, but I remember feeling uneasy staring at it. We showered, changed, and sat on the bed watching some local TV. The volume was low, just static mixed with foreign ads we couldn't understand. Hannah scrolled through her phone, trying to get signal, but there was none. I checked mine, nothing either. Around midnight, the rain had finally stopped, but that's when we started hearing sounds. Not the building creaking or pipes, this was different. It was rhythmic, faintly echoing through the wall. Thump, 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 like someone knocking on the floor from below us. I got up and pressed my ear to the wall. The sound stopped. "Probably plumbing," I said, just to reassure Hannah, even though I didn't believe it myself. A few minutes later, we heard it again, louder this time. Thump, thump, thump. Almost like footsteps underneath us, but our room was on the ground floor. I grabbed the flashlight from the car bag, the kind you twist to turn on, and checked the floor near the corners. There was a small vent under the window. The noise was coming from that direction. When I shone the light on it, I froze. There were fingerprints on the inside of the vent cover. Smudges, dark and greasy, like someone had been pushing against it. Hannah saw my face and asked, "What's wrong?" I didn't want to freak her out, so I just said it was probably old stains. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. We tried to sleep after that. I left the TV on just for some background noise. Around 2:30 a.m., I woke up again, this time to whispering. Very faint, but close, like someone was standing right outside the window. I didn't move at first. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out if I was dreaming. Then Hannah turned over and whispered, "Do you hear that?" We both sat up. The whisper stopped. I went to the window and slowly pulled the curtain aside. Nothing, just darkness and the reflection of the room behind me. But in that reflection, for half a second, I thought I saw someone standing behind me, right at the corner of the room. When I turned around, no one was there. We didn't sleep after that. Around 5 a.m., we started packing. When we went to check out, the same woman wasn't there. Instead, there was an old man sitting behind the desk. I told him about the noises, the vent, and asked if there was maybe another room beneath ours. He looked at me for a long time and said quietly, "Room 12 has no basement." I remember glancing at the wall behind him, and that's when I saw it, a framed black and white photo of the motel back when it was new. I leaned closer, and my stomach dropped. You could see all the rooms clearly labeled, except room 12. That part of the building was completely boarded up in the photo. I didn't ask anything else, we just left. To this day, I can't explain what we heard or who left those marks inside the vent. But every now and then, when I'm about to fall asleep, I swear I can still hear that same faint rhythm, thump, thump, thump right under the floor.